my best friend was from Iraq, Catholic. But there weren't many. But anyway, in 1959, then in the beginning of 1959, I was by this time I was 18 years old. So I asked for I should be baptized. But before I did that, I wanted my father to know. So I wrote a letter to my parents to say that I had thought about it, I had studied it, and I was going to convert to Catholicism. I guess I was naive. I did not expect the reaction I got. My father immediately wanted me to be sent back to Pakistan. I had an exam coming up, nothing. I just had to go back. So within a week, the nuns had to arrange for my departure. And then I asked the priest if I could be baptized before I went back to Pakistan. And he said no, because he thought that I was in the care of the sisters and this would be a breach of confidence. So he refused. So then I said to him, all right, if you won't do it, I will ask my friend to baptize me. And as I've learned from you, this is quite valid. And so he said, well, that's very disobedient, but it is valid. But he baptized me, he did. So I was baptized on the feast of Corpus Christi. He wanted me to take a Christian name, and I said, well, I'm going back to Pakistan, and I don't think I should have a Christian name. You should baptize me Talat, and when you do that, I will automatically have a Christian name because it will be baptized. But we had a little bit of a struggle on that. In the end, I said, all right, baptize me Talat Christina, because it was Corpus Christi, the feast of Corpus Christi. So we compromised there. So I was baptized with my given name too. And I returned, and then on the way to the airport, we stopped by at the bishop's office, and he confirmed me. So I went back to Pakistan, strengthened with 2 sacraments. I didn't need confession because I had just been baptized. And then I was confirmed. So I came back, and then when my father asked me on my return whether I was baptized, of course I had to admit that I was. But that led to a lot of problems for me, because my father then kind of made sure that I didn't meet Christians, that I didn't go out, and that I was restricted, and I was pretty well guarded at home. And that continued for about a year, and in the meantime I had succeeded in smuggling a little letter to a priest who was the principal of my brother's school, because he also went to Catholic schools. And then when I finally left home, after a year at home, I just walked out. I just walked out. I had nothing with me, the clothes I wore, and I just walked out. And I asked the taxi to take me to the nuns, to this convent that I had been at as a schoolgirl. And I didn't even have the taxi money. I had to ask the sisters to pay them, which they did. And when I was very surprised when I came that they knew about me, because this priest, who was in another town, had told the bishop, and everybody, I think all of Catholic Pakistan knew about me by that time, that there was some hidden Catholic somewhere. My father did turn up with the police to fetch me, but because I was of age, they couldn't, I refused to go. And so I stayed with the nuns for about 6 months. They kept me in the cloister, in fact, for my protection, because they thought maybe somebody would try to kidnap me or something. And then
was there a fear of? There was.
Because
you had converted to Catholicism.
Yes, and it's a Muslim country, and the nuns were in a difficult situation. But still, this was in 1960, 60. So things were they were not as they are now. I think it probably would have been much more difficult today.
Today it's very dangerous.
It is. But it wasn't as dangerous, although of course we didn't go around telling everybody, you know. And I also had tried to say to my father, I will not embarrass you in front of your friends, because I think that my parents were more upset by what people would say than that I had become a Catholic. I think it was what the social pressures would be on them. And I remember my mother said something to me that I've never forgotten. She said to me, I wish you'd come home with a child from England and that you converted. And for a Muslim woman to say that, it just shows you how extremely ashamed they were of me.
Wow. And I thought it was interesting that the question your father asked is, were you baptized?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the symbol.
Yes, yes. But they understood that. They understood
what baptism means.
Yes,
and that
yes.
It's not just did you accept Christ or did you have a faith, but were you baptized? That was the step. That was the major.
And then another very interesting thing happened to me, because when I became a Catholic, I was given a few presents. Somebody gave me a Bible, somebody gave me a rosary, and I was given a crucifix. All these things I still possess. And my father then said, I have to read this Bible. I don't think he'd ever read the Bible, so he picked it up and he went through the pages. And he was so shocked. He said, I think he only read the first few pages of Genesis and said, and all these, this is Bible, all these people are sinners, Abraham did this, So I said, well, because you see, it's a very, in the Quran, all these patriarchs, they have a very, it's been cleaned, their image kind of, they're not, they're not sinners, they're all.
I think the word for that is hagiography. You
That's right.
A whole lot nicer looking than.
That's right, and he was really shocked by that I should, take on a faith that showed people that they respected as,
That's right. You really are.
And of course, I did not think about that at the time, but since then I've often thought about it, and it's so that was the first part of my conversion story. My parents eventually. I had to leave, of course. I realized I could not stay in Pakistan because I could not live this hidden life where I could not do anything, and
unless you were called to the convent.
That's right. I did consider that too. I think all convert girls do that. They want to become nuns or something. I think I even thought about the poor Clares. But I went back to England. I had friends there who, in fact, supported me in England in the beginning, and I was there for 2 years.
Now, one other thing, when you were back in Pakistan, you said at one point you were involved with the sisters that Mother Teresa was involved with at one point. Is that right?
No, not with the Mother Teresa. I went to school with them, but I was not with the Mother Teresa sisters.
You went to school with those sisters?
Not with the Mother Teresa sisters, but her former convent.
That's right. Okay.
The Loreto nuns.
Now, had she been in India? That was after you were there. Is that right?
She was, in India. I think she came to India in the 1920s. So she was there, and when I think she had her second call. I think it was in 1946, 47, something. I don't remember, 48, somewhere around there. So when I was in the school as a young child, she was still a member of that congregation, although she was in their house in Calcutta, while I was in Darjeeling. But she was coming up to Darjeeling for her retreat, and so that's why I probably knew her as a child, a little one. Yes, it could have. Yeah, we probably did. Who knows?
In the time you were there, had she become known yet?
No. And I think that came later with Malcolm Muggeridge's TV program about her. I mean, I think the Indians knew about her, the people in Calcutta knew about her, but worldwide she became. I think that was really when it.
Okay. So after 6 months or so,
Then I went back to England. Because my family are very, very loving. I must say, and I'm very, very, very grateful to my family for my gift of faith, because that I've never lost. I received it from my parents, and I'm extremely grateful. I've always believed in God, and I thank them for that, and I pray for them for that great gift they gave me.
But do you discuss?
But we don't. Unfortunately, my father was much older than my mother. He was, and so I never had the opportunity to discuss. He died more than 30 years ago now, so I never really, when I was able to discuss, he was not there. With my mother, although she's a very prayerful woman and in her own way very holy, I don't think she has. You can't discuss with her because she just does not like anybody to bring doubts into her, and so you can't discuss. I tried. Now she's unfortunately has dementia, so I can't talk to her anymore. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would try to discuss when she'd come and visit us here. I tried to talk to her about her faith, about her. But I always found that I think she was a little scared to discuss with me because she didn't want me to
Well, she saw what happened to you.
And I find that very sad, that people are so afraid to discuss their faith. Because either they will get strengthened because of the discussion, and which is a good thing, or they will find the truth, which is also a good thing. And either way, they'll find.
If it's true, then you want it.
That's right, true. Yes. So I find it very sad when people will not discuss. I find it everywhere. People, they're very timid, and but our popes, they tell us, do not be afraid, and I think that's very good.
John Paul.
That's right. Yes.
That was his theme. Let's take a break, and we'll come back in just a second with more of Talat's story.
Join Marcus next time when he welcomes former Episcopalian Dr. Jay Bujashevsky to the show.
Welcome back to this special edition of The Journey Home. Our guest is Talat Strokirk. And thank you, Talat, for sharing the first part of your journey. It's hard to condense a whole life into an hour, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
You, at this point in your journey, are now in England.
Yeah.
You know, I guess you could say you've kind of left Pakistan behind.
I have.
Whole culture. I mean, now you're a Catholic living in England, right?
That's right. I went to nursing school there to begin with, but in the meantime I'd always corresponded with my parents. In the beginning they didn't answer my letters, but my brother had also come to England to study, and I took up a relationship with him because he was younger than I was, and I'd been living in England longer time, so we had no difficulty in reconnecting. And then my mother, she really wanted me to come back, and so we did a deal. I told my parents, I'll come home, but two conditions. One, that I would be allowed to practice my faith, and secondly, that I would be allowed to work. And then I would, on my part, not make a big thing about my Catholicism. I'd be discreet so that their friends, they didn't have to be embarrassed.
A woman working, is that normal in Pakistan?
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, I wasn't sure. That was normal.
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. So my parents, they said, okay, come home. So I went home. I wanted to go home. My parents are they were very loving. My mother was also very loving, and the whole family, it's a very, very warm, wonderful people. So I really felt very welcome back home. And this was a wonderful opportunity for me because I was working as a journalist, and in fact I was an editor for a magazine, an English language magazine. And this gave me an opportunity to meet foreigners, to meet other people. I could move around, and for my parents it was a wonderful job too, because they didn't have to, because I was moving around, they could say, oh, she's doing it for her work. You know, otherwise it was a little bit strange for an unmarried girl to be kind of gallivanting around town with a photographer, but I could do that, and it was all right. And my experience working I worked for a publishing and a newspaper. It's Pakistan's largest newspaper, Dawn, and their magazine. It was a magazine that they had. And I must say, I was treated very nicely by my male colleagues. I was the only girl in this particular office, and I was very well treated, really like a queen. So this idea about Muslim men not knowing how to treat women is not true.